I'm Charlie Smith, and I'm the editor of Pancouver. Pancouver has partnered with the Asian Canadian Special Events Association on a project that we're calling Beyond Chinese. It aims to elevate public understanding about Asian Canadians' contribution to the arts while addressing stereotypes and reductionism. As part of this project, I'm joined by Lynn Chen. She values how the arts strengthen personal identity, and Lynn is the programming assistant for the Institute of Asian Art at the Vancouver Art Gallery. In addition, she co-founded Cinevolution, which is a grassroots media organization that connects people across linguistic, geopolitical, and cultural boundaries. I'm so happy to be able to interview you, Lynn.
Well, thanks, Charlie, for having me.
Now, I'll start with Cinevolution Media Arts. And what inspired you to co-found this organization? And that was quite a few years ago, I realize.
Yeah, 2007, I believe. Yeah, a long time ago. I think at that time we sort of noticed a pretty big gaps between how Asia or Asianness was represented in media and film and the actual reality. So even in a very diverse society, like community often still remain in silos with very little cross-cultural exchange. And that really leads up to like stereotype about Asia or Asians. And we recognize that language can be a major barrier for new immigrants. So with Cinevolution, we really focus on like try to connect like immigrants and marginalized communities with like things like events or festival that's happening on the mainstream at that time through participatory media arts festival or international events. And with that time, we really aim to explore like the alternative perspective, introducing new ways of thinking expressions.
Well, I remember the Your Continent Festival. That was one of your big events.
Yes, yes. And it was a lot of fun. It grew, somehow becomes a 10-day festival.
Yeah. Now, why are the arts so important to you?
I think arts and life are quite interwoven. Like you can really separate them, really. And for me, like art, it's part of me. It helps to shape the way I think and provides me with almost a lens, a different pair of glasses to be more sensible and then be more critical. So
Interesting. And how did you end up working at the Vancouver Art Gallery?
I remember, yeah, in 2014, Vancouver Art Gallery established Institute of Asian Art. And at that time, there was a speaker that I was working with. And she happened to work at VAG at that time and sent me the job post and asking me to share within my network. And I was quite drawn to the initiative because it aims to foster this intercultural exchange and dialogue. And that's something I'm really passionate about. And Zhenshen Tian is a renowned scholar, and the adjunct director at that time was really well respected in the community. And he sort of dedicated all his life to promote and provide platform for art and culture exchange. And I have a huge admiration of his dedication and really want to be part of shaping this emerging initiative. And the institution was young, and I was pretty excited to have the opportunity to contribute to its development at the time.
Well, I wrote an article not too long ago about Lanny Maestro and being in the top 10 public art projects in the world, which was an Institute of Asian Art project at the offsite gallery. So we really have something to be proud of there.
Yeah, and I also remember that piece. It's such a powerful, just with neon text and yeah.
Yeah, it really grabs you.
Yes.
Now, what would you like people to know about other artists who've been exhibited through the Institute of Asian Art?
Well, I want to use, I want people to view Institute of Asian Art as almost like a gateway to reframe norms that we often have and really Eurocentric focus. and then have a platform to showcase diverse artists and voices to provide alternative perspective that encourage people to view the world in a different, new, and meaningful ways.
Mhm. And we're interviewing you as a part of our series called Beyond Chinese. I'm wondering how you view this word Chinese, because it can mean different things to different people. Do you think of it as a language, an ethnicity, a nationality, racial category? Like, what goes through your mind when you hear the word Chinese?
It's complicated, but they're good questions. I think I view it as an asset. I I live here in Canada, Vancouver, longer than I live in Taiwan.
Mhm.
And a lot of people might also resonate as a member of like diaspora. Like now I sort of came across to accept that I will always be seen as foreigner, whether in the place that I now call home or the place where I grew up. And for me, identity it changes, fluid, it's multifaceted, and it can evolve over time. And it's no longer, for me, it's no longer bound by language, race, or geographic. My Taiwanese identity has evolved within me, and it becomes, I would say, the hyphenations of my overall identity. And because of that, I can be more open and be more critical in the way I think. So
Well,
that's why I say I view it as asset.
yeah. Well, we've seen the Taiwanese identity, nationally evolve too in recent years, from the sunflower movement forward. The people in Taiwan see themselves differently than they might have 30, 40 years ago. And so it's interesting to hear it's happening here as well.
Yeah,
So
it does. Yeah.
and I'm wondering if there are any stereotypes about, the word Chinese that you'd like to address.
I think there's right now it's a seems like a funny time. There's a growing fear about the rise of Asia in this world, the roles that the bigger role they take. And that fears can sort of lead to stereotype or misunderstanding. And we are now living in a world that is increasingly like polarized, and media and politics divide, increase that divide even more. And so I'm really hoping from my work or other ways to engage to open up, having a channel for dialogue, and that it's quite crucial and important for the time right now to somehow find a way to bridge that divide and really sit down and listen to each other, perhaps, because
Mhm.
we can have different perspective, opinion, but I feel like we don't have a chance to be in the same room and listen to each other in a respectful way. So
Yeah, interesting. Um, Taiwan has experienced abrupt changes through its history as a result of colonization. And I'm wondering, has this shaped your perspective in any way as a cultural worker?
yeah, definitely. I remember in 2022, we organized an exhibition called Jimmy Yun About Time. And in this exhibition, Jimmy sort of explored the Korean diaspora experience, focusing on how like colonialism, imperialism, and militarism sort of sort of shapes the community. And one of the curator, Min Tianbo, sort of wrote it in her essay. She say like Jimmy's work has often been driven by a single question throughout her career about who am I here?
Mhm.
It's a project and poetic that use diaspora and migration as a lens.
It was an
And
incredible exhibition, by the way.
it's my favorite. I love that show so much. And it's like, yeah, I often after work I was sit in the exhibition just to have the moment for myself and look at Jimmy's work.
Especially as he got the images on the west coast of Vancouver Island and looking toward Asia. And there was a video that it was really something. So,
and quite calming too. Then I remember the waves
yeah,
that appears in each artwork, and so for her, it's really sort of pulling beyond and looking at bigger picture in general, our relationship to others, to the place, even. And a couple of years ago, I had an honor to participate at the Transit Mountain Pipeline protest with like local indigenous community member, the Burnaby Mountain. And I recall like sitting near at the watch house, which was just being built at that time. And that night it was like rain and it's a bit windy, I remember. And we all gathered in a circle with cups of tea. So they're listening to elders and community members sharing their story and why they come here. And over those days, and we took turn guarding the sacred fire to keep the spirit alive. And I think that was the moment that really struck me and made me realize that the struggle the communities face and what they're fighting for, it's something that we all need to be engaged together. And coming from a country that, you know, been through all this different colonization, and now I'm a new settler who is now settling in a place where resource was taken violently, I realized that I'm part of this really complicated history and it's all intertwined. And as a cultural workers, working in one of the largest institutions on the West Coast, and I do have the responsibility to continue learning and relearn, and then creating an opportunities for us to reflect.
Yeah, interesting. Now, is there anything, you've been wonderful in terms of answering the questions I have. Is there anything else you'd like to add about what your work involves or anything else, Lynn?
I'm very, very happy to say this November, Institute of Asian Art will have its celebration of 10th year anniversary celebration. And it becomes a hub, and we hoped it will continue becoming a hub for education, dialogue, engagement, and connecting like contemporary arts with the broader social and cultural issues. And so more to come, I guess. More exhibition, more talks, more events.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for speaking with us. I've been speaking to Lynn Chen, who's the programming assistant for the Institute of Asian Art at the Vancouver Art Gallery. She also co-founded Cinevolution.
Thank you, Charlie.